So I know we talk a lot about pricing, and we talk in the kind of the grander scale of an executive, or whether it be Chip, it talks about pricing. So I felt that we should bring on an actual pricing expert. Antonio Ruggiero is actually principal of the Pricing Cloud and does pricing all day, every day. So this is all he does. So I wanted to bring him on to kind of educate you on pricing, especially when it comes to the psychology of the customer. Antonio?
Thank you very much. Okay. And the clicker is... Okay, there we go. Thank you for having me. I hope everyone's having a good time at the conference. All right, so we're going to jump right in, I guess. So the first thing I want to start off by saying is that sports pricing isn't a class unto itself. A lot of times when people call me in, they say, my pricing is different than anything else you've ever done. And that's just not true. Sports pricing is part of a bigger class of problem called perishable asset revenue management, or PARMs. Perishable asset revenue management deals with situations where once you sell something, it's gone. You can't go back and try to sell it again. So for example, once your game happens, that seat ticket sale, you can never sell it again. So who's in this space? Airlines, hotels, car rental. I've done work in oil and gas. There's a boatload of companies out there doing a boatload of research. So there's a mountain of work that's available to you in either journals or even online now with pretty much anywhere you can look, you'll find something. And the other interesting thing is a lot of the companies I've worked for have entertained other companies to help them understand how they do pricing. For example, Disney. Disney has a very large group doing all aspects of this. And Disney Resorts falls under perishable asset revenue management. You can actually call them up and they will entertain you and tell you the type of things that they're doing. Not to mention the fact that they write a boatload of articles, which makes it even better. So the first thing we want to start off is saying pricing is the apex of this tree. That's where you interact with your customers. You're either on the phone with them, however you're interacting with them, that's the pricing side. But if you're trying to sell on price alone, you're never going to get anywhere. It's a losing cause. What you need to do is convert to what's called value pricing. Everybody's probably heard this, I hope. How many of you heard about value pricing? Oh, okay, great. So the whole idea behind value pricing, though, is you need to know where your value is. So now you need to break down from the apex all the way down to the bottom and understand, how do I build my value? When I'm out there selling, how do I know what my team's value is? What's my brand value? What is, within my segments, what's my value? So segments, you guys are probably already doing some segmentation from the work I've done. You may be breaking out corporate, non-corporate, group. Your corporate are your boxes. Your non-corporate could be individual sales, season ticket holders, some other type of components. You may branch off even further into more smaller segments and then do pricing based on that. But that's the whole concept here. So our objective is to convert a bargain hunter. When you're on the phone and someone's just trying to deal you on price, you're trying to convert them from being a bargain hunter to a value buyer. So now they're buying based on the value they attribute to your sale. Okay, we should try to go in the right way. Well, so let's move on, I guess, while they're calling up. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is thank you. Which button did I push wrong? Okay. So I'm going to start off with the first part. Warren Buffett said it can take 20 years to build a solid reputation, but 5 minutes to ruin it. When you're out there talking with your customers and you give them some strange pricing, or they back out that you gave them some strange pricing, then you've got a problem. Now you have to try to convert a customer or a patron or a season ticket holder from someone who loved you to someone who thinks you're trying to rip them off. And that's a very difficult uphill battle. I'll give you a nice example on this. I'm doing some work in Vegas for one of the major casinos, and they're putting on the big shows. So we do all this work, we set up this pricing scheme, and we implement it. And to make a long story short, we start seeing strange prices. It's like, wasn't in our scheme. So what happened was, we had given all the instructions to their marketing team. The marketing team went off and gave it to a web designer. The web designer created a web page and forgot to remove a button that said 20% off, an additional 20% off. So what happened was, as people were booking their seats for this event, they'd go through it all, and there's a button over there that says additional 20% off. The interesting thing about this was that you would think everybody would take advantage of it. And what we found, a 4-to-1 ratio. Only 20% of the people took advantage of the 20% off. And now we don't really know why, but what we speculated was their customers are so trained that when they see a deal, they think it's for some horrible seat. You know, it's going to restricted view, it's off in a corner where you can't really get the best of your dollar. So they didn't buy the seat. They didn't click on that button. The interesting thing was the button gave you access to all of the inventory. You could sit wherever you want. You just got 20% off. Where this is related to that first quote is that, well, once people went to the event and they found out that I could have saved 20%, they got a boatload of customer emails saying, look, we bought 5 tickets, right? At 20% off the list price, we could have saved whatever, X dollars. We want that money. You should have made it more visible, help us understand that we could have saved the 20%, even though that was not what was intended. So they alienated a lot of patrons with that mistake. And then it became a different problem. It became a customer relationship management problem. So let's move in. So some of the things that you can do is, the first one I'm going to start with is price anchoring. If you have a $50 price and then a $150 price, there's a huge gap there. There's actually a theorem that says the response to a gap is proportional to the stimulus. So if you have a very big gap, there's going to be a very big response, and usually that's a very big negative response. So stratified pricing or price anchoring helps customers determine value based on steps. So if I have a $50, I may have $100, then maybe $120 and $150 price break points. So now, as a customer, I'm trying to understand what's the difference between 100 and 120? Oh, well, I might as well get the 150 if I'm thinking of the 120. So it's easy for a customer to convince themselves or upsell themselves by having those extra points. And there's a boatload of research on this, but there's one really nice one for The Economist, pricing subscriptions for The Economist. I forget the guy's name, but you can find it on the internet. It's a TED Talk, and it's amazing the work he had done. He just had an extra price point of $5. And that extra $5 price point moved people from a basic subscription of $60 to a more expensive subscription of $99. So it's very powerful having stratified points or anchoring. Framing the sales message. A lot of the times we're working with customers and you have different channels of your sales message. Some may be coming in through print, some may be coming in over air, and other on the internet. And they can have very different messages. So having a consistent message is very important and helps in sales. And it also helps in convincing the customer that they're getting a good deal. Ultimately, out of this, they want the customer to understand that they're getting value and they're getting it at a good price. Let's talk about Vegas. So Vegas has taken this one step further. So they look at the entire entertainment dollar now of a customer. They call it the total share of wallet. When you go to Vegas, it's not about staying in the hotel. It's not about gambling. Now it's about your restaurant stays. It's about your shows. It's about what you do off property and off the strip. Once they quantify all of those different components, then they work back in what's that worth to them in their revenue scheme. And now they can adjust the price offers based on that. So I can give out a free hotel stay. If I know my customers I'm going to drive my customers to my in-house restaurants. I'm going to drive them to an in-house show. That's worth a lot of money. Season ticket holder. So now I'm going to take this and kind of extend it back here. So in the concept of a season ticket holder, people don't really look at the lifetime value of a season ticket holder or lifetime revenue. How long is a season ticket holder going to be? What's the average span of a season ticket holder? How can I increase that span so I can guarantee future revenues, not only from the ticket sales, but also from ancillary sales? How do I boost ancillary sales? So that's kind of a different approach where it's the total share of the entertainment dollar. So someone's coming to your sporting event, your game or whatever, and it's not about coming to your game, it's about spending entertainment dollar and being entertained. Okay, so I put a little example here about box seats. So your corporate customers are very special. Even in the regular pricing world, your big customers, your key account customers, they're handled with kid gloves. They got a key account manager, they call them, make sure everything is going well. Same is true on the corporate customers. So one of the things that you can start to look at is how can I introduce some additional value for my corporate customers to convince them that, you know, staying on year after year after year is worth it. So for example, you could be willing to offer them time on your Jumbotrons. So now Jumbotrons have become monstrous, and the IT behind them is very, very powerful. So there's a way now to leverage that for your customers. It doesn't have to be an ad per se, but a non-ad ad goes a long way for corporate customers. For example, just getting the name of the corporation out there and helping your stadium full of people recognize the name. That in itself has power. Second one, which is really kind of interesting, is that people are willing to pay for flexibility. So as you look at your contracts, how are they tied into it? How can I release them from some portion of it by making them pay more? Your example for this is in hotels. If you buy an internet price, you're locked into a low price. Or airlines, you're locked into a sale price. But if you want to be able to cancel that whenever you want to be able to rebook it whenever you want, you pay more. A full fare ticket could be 5 times more expensive than an internet sale ticket. And people pay for it. They pay for that flexibility. Okay, so let's do this example here. This one I was just doing last week. So let me get the numbers straight. So your objective is you want to buy 2 simple hooks that you want to hang in your kitchen. Surprisingly, there's a lot of detailed work in doing that. Okay, so you're looking for 2 of them. So what we have here is a Command traditional large plastic hook with a metallic brushed nickel finish. On the left-hand side, one hook is priced at $4.55. Its original price was $8.48, and you get a savings of $3.83 or 40%. But on the right-hand side, you can buy a 2-hook package. That 2-hook package was originally priced at $39.99. Now it's 60% off, or you get to save $24. $24 that you can go out and buy other things with. So in this group, how many would want to buy that 2-hook package? Hands up. 1, 2. Okay. Why would you want to buy on the right-hand side? If you're not going to put your hand up, you have to have a reason for making a difference. Well, in Amazon, you can buy 1 hook, but choose 2 of them. So they could come, 1 delivered tomorrow, 1 delivered the next day. But if you buy 2 of them at $4.55, that's $9.10. 2 of them in a single package is $15.99. Okay? Now, they do some things right on this. They tell you an exorbitant list price of $39.99. They give you the 9s, right, which charm pricing is one of the important things to do. They also tell you that you save $24 or 60% off of the list. So as a customer, you're thinking, oh, I'm saving $24. I'm going to go and buy some dish rags to hang on these dish hooks that I'm going to hang in my kitchen. But the actual fact is that that pricing is $7 more expensive than the lower available pricing. And the kicker is, on Amazon, they get sales. So there's an interesting comment that says, you can never go poor underestimating your customers. They will do things that will always amaze you. So let's move on. So what did they do right? I talked about the charm pricing. They did the $39.99. That draws you in. They showed you a 60% discount. But a lot of people can't deal with a 60%. They want to know the numbers they're saving. So they tell you $24. They list this all up front. They give you exactly what you're buying. They tell you what you're saving, what it originally cost, and what are the savings. It's all great. It's all frame great, except everything starts too high. So in the end, you convince yourself to buy a product that was way more expensive than buying it as a single unit. Now, one of the things that's been shown in the research is that charm pricing is supposed to be really important. Everybody's probably heard you want to end in nines. So $39.99, $19.99, I want to sell it at $9.99 or $10. Well, I want my season's tickets at $1,599. Well, it turns out that the research on this now goes both ways. Everybody who says it matters, they're looking at research that was done around early 2000. And in early 2000, it probably didn't matter. But today, with the internet and the incredible use of the internet, it's losing its importance. But it's stratified. The younger generations are very internet savvy. The older generations are not. So depending on who's in your study, it makes a difference. So the end result is use it, right? It makes sense to use it whether it works or it doesn't work. Another one is talk about proper messaging. If you're out there trying to sell, actually adding the term over or free tremendously increases your ability to penetrate, right? So you should be thinking about what can I add that's free, or how can I add over? So if I'm doing a 50% sale, don't make it a 50% sale. Make it a 50.1% sale, or whatever number, 50.187% sale. So that now your messaging becomes, you save this many dollars, which is over 50%. And that makes people feel, wow, I'm getting a greater deal because it's over 50%. Adding free loss leaders, whatever you want to call them, adding anything that's free, tons of research that says it stimulates sales, no question. Doesn't really matter what it is either. So you would think that I think there was a case where they were selling $8,000 watches, and they were just giving away a hat that had the name of the manufacturer of the watch. And that stimulated sales on an $8,000 watch, which seems odd, but it does. The next point I have is simplify. Disney Resorts is a master at this. They look at their products, and they bundle their products. So when you're there, and your daughter's looking at some princess, because they got 100 of them, take your pick, what do? Well, they give you a dress and shoes and a little tiara and wand. It becomes a little more expensive, but it becomes a sale because the daughter sees, oh, I want all of that. And surprisingly, it's not driven by the kids. It's driven by the parents and the grandparents, the adults themselves who want the complete picture. But they want a simple way to go into the store, buy it, and move out and feel like they got a good deal from it. Incentivize passive selling. Okay, so in this kind of approach, you're trying to give your customer a way to convince themselves to buy something better for you. So we talked about the stratified price points. That's a way for a customer to move from a lower price point to a higher price point. Another way is to change the pricing. So for example, in season's ticket sales, you could offer, through some analysis, you figure out what's the base number of tickets I should put in a season's ticket sale package, say 2. And then I can start discounting additional seats. So somebody who's buying season's ticket sales may not be thinking about buying seats for their kids. But at the right price, it becomes a natural trigger. And say, well, you know what, I can buy these for the kids too, and now we can make it a family outing. Maybe they don't come all the time. I can give some to my friends. But now you've upsold them into more seats at better pricing than what you would do if that demand wasn't there. The last point here is these are some of the freebies that people have tried. So in this particular case, if I know I have four seasons tickets going to a family, I might just give them some free hot dog tickets. So assuming that there's 2 parents, which nowadays in San Francisco that might not be a good assumption, but if they have 2 kids, giving them 2 tickets, well, what does that mean? Well, they're going to go in and buy 2 hot dogs. Yeah, they'll probably buy them some drinks, and they may buy themselves something as well because they're at the stand already. So now I've incentivized whoever's buying these hot dogs to upsell into some other components. People that might have had their butts glued to the seats the whole game suddenly now are getting out, and you're getting them to where you can get them to buy something. Okay, segment value. So in our tree, we had team, and then we had brand and segment. So we're going down. We're going from pricing to segment to brand, and we won't do much on team. So on segment value, understanding your customer is everything here. But that's an easy statement to make. Doing customer segmentation takes some work. You have to, if you can't have access to the data, how do you get that information? The natural way is to just send out surveys and get people to answer them. And you have a huge number of guests staying in your stadium. So if you send out an email blast, you would get more than enough replies to meet any requirements for doing statistical requirements for gathering information from them to help drive your sales. So that's one aspect of it. But what type of things are we looking for? So it's different depending on the venue, but I think in general you want to know basically what type of customer they are. So from this perspective, I think you're interested in the number of years they've been with you. Because there's a big difference between a 1-year season ticket holder, a 3-year season ticket holder, and a 7-year season ticket holder. And the difference is in their propensity to renew their season ticket holder the next year with you. So understanding what drives each one of these could be very important. And it's going to be different drivers. So you're going to want to naturally put them differently in different buckets. So that's an idea around here. Spend, fan, ticket type. We'll move on. So building customer relationships. So now we're drawing, what do other people do to build customer relationships? So for your large customers, what typically, I talked about key account managers, every business out there that has large, 20-80 rule always kicks in, right? 20% of their revenues are coming from the big customers. So what do? They give them special attention. They give them key account managers. These key account managers call them to make sure everything is happening. But what's the purpose of it really? The purpose is to have constant contact with your customers. Because these are hooks now to get your customer to come back. I always said that people buy things from people. They don't really buy from the internet. So you need to have that relationship between people to convince them to continue that relationship. And all of these hooks, they matter. They add up. So in cruise companies, there's a great example where we did some work. So a cruise company I was working with starts a cruise. You can book a cruise 8 months out, right? But what's interesting is there are specific points in that period where you want to have contact with the customer so that you influence them to reserve or to actually purchase tickets. And you don't even have to do it by discounting. Just the contact points will initiate sales. There is a point, though, where you have to start discounting in order to start building up sales. But the contact itself helps initiate sales. Telecoms, we all have cell phones. We're all bombarded nonstop with all these new deals coming out. They don't really have anything to do with you. But they send them out to you to keep reminding you that when it's time for you to renew, you've got a good relationship. They're sending you all these deals, and you can pick one. The secondary aspect of it is you may find a deal you like. So you exercise it. And what happens? It always has an extension on your 2 years contract. So you keep exercising these nice deals that come on, and they keep you on. They keep you tied to their network. And why is that important for telecoms? Telecoms have actually done research, and they've shown that to acquire a new customer is 5 times more expensive than to keep an old customer. So it's worth it for them to give the deals, to give you the rollover minutes, even though nobody ever uses them. So using this kind of information, we can extend this now to, say, season ticket holders, where I talked about, look, there's a difference between 1, 5, and 10-year holders. Well, what hooks do we need to give to them to convince them to renew with us the next year? Do I need to give the same hooks to everybody? That's not going to be the case, actually. It's been shown. In fact, a 10-year season year is extremely likely to renew the next year. Extremely likely. So there's you probably don't even have to do anything for them. So I have some examples. Some of the things that you might offer are the things that aren't included. But you don't have to, let's say, give away the whole cow. You can give them some milk. You can portion out whatever deal you offer. So I'll talk about free parking tickets. You can give parking tickets out, but for specific games. So I'll give you some free parking tickets. And that sounds like, well, who cares about parking tickets? You'd be amazed, again, what the free does for upselling. Parking tickets are actually kind of interesting because, first of all, they go through a different profit center. So from your perspective, you treat those differently. And so there's a lot of nice aspects to giving out free parking tickets, believe it or not. So basically what you're trying to do is find those things that you can give to these different segments that are going to help you renew, right? And you want to do it at the lowest cost point. I don't want to have to give them a car to get them renew for 1 year, and they'll be gone after that. But okay, so wow, 30 minutes, incredible. Okay, brand value. So brand is different. So this is the one aspect I think about sports that is probably different a little bit than, say, a hotel. Well, there are tier 1 hotels and middle tier and lower tier hotels. They're, this Marriott Marquis is a tier 1 hotel. Well, it's always going to be a tier 1 hotel. But some sports teams are not always going to be tier 1, right? Depending on what's happening with your team and where you're at in the standings and what's happened from 1 year to the next year. Some teams will never lose their tier 1 standing. It doesn't matter what their teams are doing. I'm a Canadian. I'm from Toronto, and I used to have Toronto seasons tickets. When I had the Toronto seasons tickets, I think they made the playoffs once, but we went religiously to every game, so it didn't really matter, right? There's the only entertainment venue in town, and we went. Functional rebates. This is an interesting one, which I think other companies use, but hasn't really made its way fully into the sports venue. The idea behind functional rebates is big companies will give money available. When you signed in, you saw a sign, and it said 3M, right? 3M gave money for that sign. They gave money to Marriott. Marriott then puts up their sign. But the interesting thing with functional rebates is these companies, they manage it all. So they'll come in, set up the booth, man the booth, and their whole purpose is they're trying to get a message out about either some new products or something that their company's doing to a marketplace. Now, the one nice aspect about a stadium is you have a lot of nice attribute analytics for these companies. You know what's in there. You know the age aspects, how it's separated between young and old, and you can benefit from that by selling this back into these corporations. So the corporations will pay for this to be able to do it, which is kind of nice. Disney Resorts does something really nice. So what they've done is they've specialized all their products when you go to a resort. You could do the same thing in stadiums. You can have special products that are only available within the stadium and not available through a normal consumer products channel. So when you go to Disney and you buy that little spray fan, you can't get that anywhere else. You have to be on site to buy something like that, and you pay extra for it. So that's a way to build value. And new technologies. My last one has to be something about what you're going to hear about either today or at least see in the conference. Integrating all these new technologies into existing stadiums. And there are a lot of things you can do. IBM is heavily involved. And the one I quoted was, look, you can have a simple concierge service that somebody orders online and you bring it to their seat. They used to do that way back, and they don't anymore. So thank you. Time is up. I don't know if you got a lot of this, but just remember there's a lot of research out there to help you out, no matter where you want to start.
Well, thank you very much, Antonio.
Okay.